been a while, hasn't it? Right now it is 9:40 p.m. on New Year's Eve, and it will be 2025 in, about 2 hours. So, let's get into it. Devlog number 5. What we have right here is improvements to chunk meshing, as well as improvements to object storage. And then we have some graphical additions as well. Alright, so if we turn off collision momentarily and we go under the train, prior to this I was actually rendering all 6 faces of the block, which is not super efficient for my graphics. But right now you can see that the train kind of only rendering the sides of everything, so it's a lot less faces to render here. And you can see if I reload the chunk, it actually renders the bottoms of the blocks. For example, if I am like underground or something, I'll need to render the bottoms of the blocks. So it's going to check my elevation, and if I am, you know what, I can't even remember how I wrote the code, but I think if I'm below a certain point, it's just going to re-render the bottoms of the blocks. If we go into, take a very quick look at our code, we have implemented spatial hashing. So that's just a more efficient way to get chunks. For example, if we were to get a chunk from a given XZ coordinate, spatial hashing makes that function a lot more efficient than how I was previously doing it. And basically, spatial hashing is just a fancy term for storing everything in a dictionary. That's basically it. If we look at this region manager, you can see here's my regions. It's just a key associated with a region, right? And then the spatial hashing part is the key is a hash, just a unique value associated with the object. So in my case, it's pretty easy because what we're doing is this is just the location of the region. Same with the chunk. In order to store the chunk, we're associating it with the location. So I think what we have, it's just the X coordinate with a delimiter character and then the Z coordinate. So it makes for a lot more efficient object accessing. So that's all well and good. And then graphical change, you may have already seen it, but I added a little target for the actual block I'm selecting. If I were to select this part and left click, I would place a block, and I can just kind of do this over and over, adding blocks to chunks. For some reason, the blocks that are added don't actually have any collision, even when I have collision turned on. That's a bit of a mystery right now, but our collision detection is very far from perfect if you've seen that previous devlog that goes over it. I haven't added removing blocks yet. Right now it's just placing them. I was definitely overcomplicating this part. I was trying to extract like the specific block face that I was looking at, and I made these convoluted diagrams about, the view matrix and deriving the face based off of where I was looking, and then I put a view matrix in the center of the block, and I was trying to connect the view matrices by having them look at each other and then getting the face. It was a lot of, it was definitely overcomplicating it, but the solution was actually far simpler. So we have that going, and so you can see when if I were to place some blocks and then go below them, the bottoms of those blocks are also not rendered. So if we place another block and have the chunk re-render, the bottoms of those blocks have just rendered now. So that covers that. Yeah, that's about it I have for this devlog. I know I said floodlighting and emissive blocks in the last video. However, I think it's pretty important to be able to place and remove blocks for that in order to actually test out the floodlighting and the light propagation of those emissive blocks. when you place the blocks, you need to be able to know that the light can propagate effectively, and then when you remove the blocks, it needs to be able to depropagate. So I think the only way to kind of go about testing that is to actually set up placing and removing blocks. But we are one step closer. So that's it for this devlog, and Happy New Year's.